Polite Enquiries, day 0, Old Trafford? MJ says, WTF, which I believe stands for what the fudge.
We genuinely don't know what the result is. We don't know if this match has been abandoned. We don't know if it's been forfeited. We don't know if the series is over 2-1, 2-2, or just not over. The sheer enormity of what we don't know would sink a battleship.
It feels like it's going to be moved to the next summer, doesn't it? It feels like it will come back next summer as a series.
The compromise solution is to play a one-off test match next summer, but whether it's part of this series, I honestly, I don't think anyone knows the answer to that yet, so it's hard to give you a strong answer. And of course, there's very little room in the schedule to squeeze more in. But yes, I suspect that to avoid a calamitous fallout, which is what there would be, they will try and squeeze a game in to ensure that they don't have to try and recoup the 30 million or so pounds they've lost on this game. Just to put it in perspective, if this was deemed a COVID cancellation, the ECB get no money from insurance, okay? If it was deemed a forfeit because India didn't want to play, it would be insured. So you can see, because money's obviously the motivation for all these things, you can see how that could become a really contentious issue. So the solution will probably be to play, yes, another test match in the middle of next year when India are in England anyway to play a one-day series.
So best case scenario, we might have the longest test series in history. So we should be joyous.
That is a very positive interpretation. I suspect the people who are arriving at 9 o'clock this morning
didn't feel that way.
Feel that the 12 months in the temporary stand there is quite a long wait. I don't know if they bought enough sandwiches for that. They're going to have to eke them out, aren't they?
My opinions are mine, says. Absolute disgusting decision to cancel the 5th test at Old Trafford. Obviously saving the IPL was a bigger concern. Why not wait and watch over the weekend and reschedule it next week?
Well, there's no time for that because the IPL restarts on the 19th. Actually, the players involved from both sides, I think, are going to fly out tomorrow, Saturday. And I think they're going to have to observe a 5 or 6 day quarantine in the UAE now. So you can see why it's happened. Yes, I think people who say that the IPL is irrelevant in this are either fools or deluded. To be fair, would England have played if the roles had been reversed? I'm not at all sure that they would. England pulled out of the South African tour less than a year ago when no one had tested positive for COVID. They came home from a tour in slightly similar circumstances. So, they're not the completely innocent party here. It is very unfortunate that a test is cancelled less than 2 hours before the toss, when people have left home, when people have hotel bookings, when people have travelled. That's horrendous. I mean, that's simply not good enough, and it's horrendously disrespectful to the paying spectator.
Ben says, was this a bit of an extreme way of making sure Jarvo didn't run on the pitch again?
Jarvo is relevant, I'm afraid. He is relevant. And this is why, some of us don't find him very funny, because he is used as an example to show that the COVID protocols weren't tight enough. If you can get some fat buffoon running onto the pitch 3 times and get into touching distance, literally, of the players, you can't pretend that you're protecting people. So I think he has been used as an example of the protocols not really working. So I'm afraid Jarvo is partially responsible. I genuinely believe that.
Curran says, not so polite an inquiry, but was it the Shastri book launch that ECB were furious about? Well, they're certainly furious about what has happened next. As far as I'm aware, and George, you could correct me on this, it wasn't against the actual protocols of this tour to have it, but neither board seems very happy that it went ahead, and obviously Shastri coming back with a positive is not ideal straight after the event.
Look, the protocols are use your common sense and go into a crowded book launch. Look, people do get COVID, and they're not guilty of getting COVID. They're unlucky to get COVID. It has been the responsibility of all of us to minimise our exposure to it and to not go to events like crowded book launches. He would appear to be patient 0, and that would appear to be the start of this outbreak. So yeah, in retrospect, it's unfortunate, but I don't want to be blaming people who've got the virus. I've had the virus, no one means to get the virus, and people have to live their lives to some extent, but I suspect even he, if he had his time again, probably wouldn't go to that book launch.
PL says, India never wanted to play the 5th test before this series started, did they? Well, it never quite fit in, this test, to be fair. England obviously wanted it because England didn't want to be down the money, but it never fit in. It was always going to be messy once the IPL had to be fit in. As I keep saying, there's not enough room.
Right.
But yes, that is correct, isn't it?
That is correct, I'm afraid. And if they didn't want to play it, don't sign up for it, don't sell tickets, and don't change your mind the morning of the game. I mean, even if this happened yesterday, it would have been better. It would have been awful. But, literally people are arriving at the ground excited to come in. This decision was made at 8:44, I think it was, yeah?
Yeah, no, I'm with you. It certainly had to be done yesterday, I think. Once they didn't do training, I thought that was it. I thought the game was off at that point. Ash says, will we see a 2-match series next summer between England and India instead of just 1 match? I've been wondering this. I know you're at I suppose you weren't at that, but you on a Zoom with Tom Harrison, if he allows you to still talk to him or even look at him. But in that situation, it would actually make sense, would it not, if they were in the country, just to slap on an extra test?
I can see the logic, but I can also not see the time.
Yeah, there's no time.
When is all this going to happen?
Yeah, I'm with you there.
Personally, I could live with the test series being completed next summer. I mean, there are no perfect solutions to this scenario.
There's no perfect solutions to modern life with COVID. Josh says, not sure if it's been asked before, but did we actually see the end of Pujara and Rahane?
It's a tongue-in-cheek question, isn't it?
It has to be. It has to be. I hope Josh is on our side here.
I think there's a few people who were named in the squads here who won't play Test cricket again.
Suraj says, will this be the last of Anderson, or is he still in contention for the Ashes?
He's definitely in contention for the Ashes, but I don't know that the Ashes is happening. It's less likely today than it was yesterday. And I'll tell you why, because the ECB have just realised that you cannot keep just whipping the horse forward. Eventually it's just going to fall down dead.
And this isn't a new thing either. They've been whipping the horse for quite a long time with these players, and now with COVID it's a lot worse as well. We have been pushing our cricketers as far as they can, and they are starting to crack. Jeetson says, player of the series, Joe Root, ? And will we ever see Kohli versus Anderson again?
I don't care about player of the series. I'm sorry, I just don't. But, Joe Root's played brilliantly, so fair play. Could be Rabbit, couldn't it? I'd always prefer to give it to someone from the side who's won, but maybe not. The series isn't over, is it? So we can't. Will we see Anderson beat Kohli again? You'd think not. But Anderson keeps proving us wrong. Or maybe he meant, will Virat keep his place in the side? I think Virat's a plucky young fella. And I think if he knuckles down, there's still a few more test runs in front of him. So, no reason he can't see Jimmy Anderson again in a year's time.
Can't believe that Jitin wanted Kohli dropped. Really strong question to finish this polite inquiries. We'll see you next time.